It was the afternoon on the 22nd of April on Tuesday when 26 civilians were gunned down by militants in the scenic, serene and sublime meadow of Baisaran in Jammu and Kashmir's Pahalgaon. And cut to 15 days later, in the early morning of a Wednesday, on the 7th of May, the Indian Armed Forces launched a covert op against 9 terror camps in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir against the so-called militants and militancy. Welcome Express viewers, I am Flora Swai and you're watching a special bulletin on Operation Sindoor, live and exclusive on the official YouTube channel of the Indian Express. So far, a lot has happened. The Indian Armed Forces launched strikes against 9 terror camps in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and Pakistan that belonged to 3 named terrorist organizations, namely Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Taiba and Hizbul Mujahideen. It's all about Operation Sindoor this morning. All eyes are on India. What happened, how the terror strikes were carried out on these terror camps. So let's take a look so far at what has happened and what is Operation Sindoor all about.
Named Operation Sindoor, India's response to the Pahalgaon terror attack involved targeted strikes on 9 locations across Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Sources indicate that the operation was named by the Prime Minister himself. Under this operation, the Indian Armed Forces conducted strikes on terror bases that were reportedly used to plan and launch attacks against India. The name Operation Sindoor refers to red vermilion, traditionally worn by Hindu married women. During the Pahalgaon terror attack, several women lost their husbands, many of whom were killed in front of them. On April 22nd, an image of a Hindu woman sitting beside her husband's body circulated on social media as well. The woman, Himanshi Narwal, had been married for less than a week to 26-year-old naval officer Vinay Narwal. They were on their honeymoon when Vinay was killed. The attack was targeted on Hindu men specifically. Out of 26 civilians who were killed in the attack, 25 were Hindu men. Sources say the naming of the operation aims to humanize the victims and ensure their stories are not forgotten.
So that's Operation Sindoor, and right now we have our senior journalist Neeta Sharma live and exclusive right there from the North Block. Hi Neeta, it's been a hell of a morning and so far you have been in a media briefing where the Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri along with Colonel Sophia Qureshi and Wing Commander Vyomika Singh gave a briefing on all about Operation Sindoor. Tell us exclusively and tell us extensively how has Operation Sindoor been the most expansive military armed conflict operation that India has ever seen?
See, as far as this Operation Sindoor is concerned, the Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri spelled it out that why India chose to target these 9 locations in Pakistan and in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. He clearly said that, these terrorists had targeted Baisaran Valley, this meadow, because they wanted to target tourists. Because in last 1 year, we have seen as many as 2.15 crore tourists who have visited Jammu and Kashmir. So obviously the tourism graph was going up as far as Valley was concerned, and Pakistan was not happy about it. They were rather perturbed about it, and in order to bring that graph down. In fact, interestingly, last year also in September, October, after the elections which were held in Jammu and Kashmir, TRF had come out with a statement in which they had said that they would be targeting the business of Jammu and Kashmir. They would be targeting the tourism sector of Jammu and Kashmir. And that is why this target was chosen. In fact, when I was also speaking to some of the senior officers who are investigating this Pahalgam terror case, they say earlier, Adu Valley and also Betab Valley were wrecked by these terrorists, but these 2 points were not chosen because till that point, you can go in a vehicle. But only difference as far as this Baisaran was concerned, because it's a meadow and you have to go by foot. And the approach road to Baisaran is also is only few feet wide. So when the target stuck, when the terrorists stuck, all these people were, confined to that area, and coming out of that valley was itself a very huge task. And that is why these terrorists had stuck as far as Baisaran was concerned. Today, Mr. Vikram Misri, when in his press conference, he says that by targeting tourists in Baisaran, in Pahalgam, these terrorists wanted to target the divide. They wanted to divide India culturally and religiously. But India stood strong, India stood united, and no aftermath seen after these strikes. TRF again took the responsibility of this attack. He also said that in UNSC, that is the United Nations Security Council, India has already submitted proof many a times saying that TRF has been prohibited and TRF has been banned. In fact, he spelled out all the details, like starting from to November last year, 2024, in the Sanctions Committee, India provided 7 inputs in which they stated why TRF, that is the Terror Resistance Front, which is the front of the Lashkar-e-Taiba, why it was banned. Even in December 2023, they had said that TRF is the front force of Lashkar-e-Taiba, and Lashkar is using them to, propagate violence, to increase their area of influence. So India had submitted all these details to UNSC, that is the United Nations Security Council. In fact, this year itself, after the attack took place on 22nd of April, and on 25th of April, the UNSC asked TRF, they insisted that why such an attack was, had taken place, and they came down heavily on asking them very strict and severe questions. Mr. Misri also pointed out that when the investigations were going on, speaking to the eyewitnesses and the information gathered from the ground, material evidence and circumstantial evidence, it's pointed out that the perpetrators of the crime were Pakistani. The 4 terrorists who were identified, 2 of them belonged to TRF. He said Pakistan has been playing the dual game. In last 15 days, so much was being shared at the international front, but Pakistan, instead of taking a stand and condemning the action initiated by them, they took a tough stand and they said that this terror attack was not backed by them. Mr. Vikram Misri further went to say that earlier also lies of Pakistan have been nailed by India. He gave a very good example of Sajid Mir, who was a crucial link as far as 2611 is concerned. He said Pakistan earlier said that Sajid Mir was dead. Only after India provided evidence at the international fora, they agreed that Sajid Mir was alive. So the dual game which the Pakistan has been playing, he exposed those lies also. He said in last 15 days, infrastructure-wise, the blame game, Pakistan was in fact blaming India, that India has been putting pressure on them internationally. So they were obviously not taking stand, and that's the reason why India was forced to take such an Operation Sindoor was launched. He underlined the fact that it was non-escalatory and no critical infrastructure was affected by the strike. Only the terrorist camps were targeted by the Indian security forces, and this operation lasted from 1:05 a.m. till 1:30. In 25 minutes, the Operation Sindoor, 9 camps were struck by Indian security forces. They gave out details also as to where all these camps were. Most of them were the terror-based camps of Jaish-e-Mohammed, like the case of Bhavalpur. Markaz Subhan Allah mosque was targeted. It is located now. When Indian Express has accessed all the data of the government, giving out details where these 9 strikes have taken place. As per these documents, Markaz Subhan Allah is located at National Highway 5, that is on the out of Bhavalpur at Karachi More. This is the main center of Jaish-e-Mohammed. for training and indoctrination of youth, which is spread over 15 acres of area. So obviously when Pakistan says that they have no clue that such big camps are being run in their area, they are lying. This is the lie which India wanted to expose. So this was one of the camps which was targeted by India. Interestingly, you know, now the statements which are coming out of Pakistan. In fact, Masood Azhar himself, there is a statement which is there on platform X in which he says that about 15 of his family members have been killed in this airstrike. So many places have been struck, which also includes Lashkar-e-Taiba, Hizbul Mujahideen facilities, like in Muzaffarabad also Jaish-e-Mohammed Saidina Bilal Markaz has been struck. So many facilities have been struck. India says that it was essential because they had information that Pakistan is going to target more, is going to carry out some more targets and going to carry out more terror strikes in coming days, and that is why it was essential. After the attack, the National Security Advisor spoke to his counterpart in America and in other countries also, briefed him about that. He said that if Pakistan does not scale down its response, India is ready for any eventuality. Back to you.
Right. Neeta, why these specific 9 terror camps? We know that 4 of them belong to Jaish-e-Mohammed, 3 of them belong to Lashkar-e-Taiba, and 2 of them belong to Hizbul Mujahideen. Why these 9 terror camps exclusively?
Because these are those terror camps from where terror has been exported to India in last 2.5 decades. Talk about Red Fort attack, about Parliament attack, talk about Pulwama attack, talk about Mumbai attack. You know, all have linkages to these terror camps. India had specific information. India had coordinates. India has been sharing information internationally also, and also at FATF, that is the Financial Action Task Force, asking the international fora to impose curbs on them. But when India saw that it has been isolated and they got information that future attacks are going to be taking place by these people in some cities also, that's when India decided to target these 9 camps, and these camps were targeted successfully in those 25 minutes. Meetings have been going on. Cabinet meeting was also, held. The Prime Minister briefed the entire cabinet about the entire Operation Sindoor. So obviously, it was a big success as far as India is concerned, but the borders remain tense, and that is the reason why most of the bordering airports now have been asked to shut their operation till May 10. Back to you.
Absolutely. We also have reports that the Prime Minister has sort of briefed President Draupadi Murmu on what has happened so far, and Union Home Minister Amit Shah is currently holding cabinet meetings and meetings with chief ministers of border states along Pakistan and Nepal. Ambulances are being mobilized. What are your updates on it?
Yeah, the meeting which the Union Home Minister had convened along with the many people had attended that meeting. That meeting is now over. The Jammu Kashmir was the state which participated. Uttar Pradesh participated. Gujarat participated. Shillong participated. So most of the border areas, right now we have to remember that there is a drill also, the civil defense drill, which is going to start from 4 p.m. onwards. So he was taking a stock, and these are those areas where vital installations are also there. Yesterday, when I had spoken to senior NDMA guys, that is the National Disaster Management Authority guys, they were saying that government has divided the areas in 3 categories: most vulnerable, vulnerable, and least vulnerable. So according to each category, a plan has been devised, a plan has been laid out by authorities how to follow these civil defense drills, which are going to start shortly. Back to you.
Right. So you are from Jammu and Kashmir, and currently the atmosphere there is tense. What are your inputs? What is your intel on this?
See, as far as J&K is concerned, the borders are definitely very tense. Pakistan resorted to artillery firing last night, and army also retaliated. Certain sectors have been off limits even for media. the Jammu Kashmir Lieutenant Governor, Mr. Manoj Sinha, earlier in the day, he took a meeting with all the district commissioners and the local police officers. He instructed them that if the population there is facing some kind of a problem, they should be pulled back, because all the border areas right now are volatile, whether it's Punch, Mendhar, or all along LOC and international border. Those areas are very tense, and that's the reason why people are being pulled back from those areas, because Pakistan is resorting, and there is some kind of information that tonight also Pakistan may or may not resort to some kind of a reaction to the strikes which India has carried on. So India is obviously keeping a tight watch as to what the retaliation might be. Meanwhile, as I was mentioning, the Union Home Minister also carried out meetings with all the border states, the Chief Secretaries and the Director General of Police and the Chief Minister attended this meeting. Back to you.
Correct. What kind of a narrative do you think India is trying to set, the message that India is trying to project at this point of time?
See, India is saying that they have been forced to take this kind of an action. It is non-escalatory. They just wanted to stop the infrastructure build-up of these terrorist camps, terror groups with which they were accumulating in Pakistan, because Pakistan obviously was not doing enough to dismantle them. Pakistan was not doing enough to take action against these camps. So that is why India was forced to take such an action. But this was non-escalatory. And in these strikes also, which lasted about 25 minutes, only 9 terror camps, places which were housing terrorist camps, they were targeted. None of the civilian population was targeted. That is what the Indian statement says. In fact, India also gave out a statement. The US Embassy of India also put out a statement saying the same, that in last 15 days, India was wanting Pakistan to take action because they were providing so much of proof. But since they did not take any action, that's the reason why.
Right. So as far as we were talking to Neeta, there have been 9 civilians killed and 38 others injured in the heavy artillery shelling that Pakistan has resorted to. Neeta, if you can hear me, then please let me know if how India is preparing in case there is an escalation from Pakistan.
See, India has, as I was mentioning, the Lieutenant Governor of Jammu and Kashmir has already taken a stock of the situation. He has already spoken to the district commissioners of the districts. He also spoke to the local police officers and have made plans accordingly. The civil defense drill, which is going to start from 4 p.m. tonight, India is preparing itself if some action is been initiated by Pakistan, how each respondent is going to respond. Each city is going to respond. A blueprint has been charted out by the civil defense authorities. In fact, 6 lakh volunteers are going to participate in this drill. The Ministry of Defense is the nodal agency as the civil defense mock drill is concerned. So tonight is going to be a very crucial night as far as India is concerned. But India has read out a message. In fact, the National Security Advisor, Mr. Ajit Doval, when he spoke to his counterparts all over the world, whether it's UK, whether it's UAE, or whether it's France, he informed them that India is prepared for any eventuality, but they hope that Pakistan does not escalate this situation further, because in this case, India only targeted terror camps. They did not target any civilian population, and so far there is no news of any civilian getting injured in these strikes. Back to you.
Correct. Are we expecting any more briefings, maybe from the MOD, maybe from the cabinet?
No, as of now, there are no briefings, because the briefings which took place early morning also, in that also they did not take any questions. In fact, the statements were read out by the Foreign Secretary and these 2 young women, and no questions were taken, because they said it's a developing situation. So they are keeping their fingers crossed, and they said they will only come back to us if something more develops and if something is more concrete. Back to you.
Right. That was Neeta Sharma, senior journalist from the North Block, reporting live. And so far, We have updates that 9 civilians were killed and 38 others injured in heavy artillery shelling along the line of control in Jammu and Kashmir. Operation Sindoor has taken over all the headlines today. We have had briefings from the Ministry of External Affairs, and in the meantime, this was an operation that intended to sort of take revenge, seek justice for what happened to 26 civilians in Pahalgaon on the 22nd of April in Jammu and Kashmir. Let's take a look at what their family members had to say post this operation.
धन्यवाद करती हूँ, उनसे बहुत थैंक यू कहती हूँ कि उन्होंने मेरे पति की मौत का बदला लिया है।
मैं रात 2 बजे से लगातार देख रहा हूं और मैं सलाम करता हूं अपने देश की सेना को और धन्यवाद अर्पित करता हूं अपने देश के माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी को, जिन्होंने देश की 140 करोड़ जनता के मन की बात को समझा, दिल के दर्द को समझा, उसके दर्द को समझा, उसके गुस्सा को समझा और जिस तरह हमारी सशक्त सेनाओं ने अदम्य साहस और शौर्य के साथ पाकिस्तान में पल रहे आतंकवाद का विनाश करने का काम किया है, उसके लिए मैं सलाम करता हूं, मैं धन्यवाद अर्पित करता हूं हमारे देश की सरकार को।
आज कहीं न कहीं जो शुभम की जिस तरह से शहादत पहलगाम,
जी
आज कहीं न कहीं शुभम को एक असली श्रद्धांजलि और एक कहा जाए शांति मिली।
जी हाँ, बिल्कुल। आज हमारा परिवार जो इतने दिन से गम में था, आज हमारे परिवार ने रात के 2 बजे से कुछ हल्कापन महसूस किया है। जो दिल में हमारे दर्द था, उस दर्द में हमारे मलहम लगा है और निश्चित तौर पे मुझे ऐसा महसूस हुआ है कि शुभम की आत्मा को आज सच्चे तौर पे आज शांति मिली है, आत्मा को शांति मिली होगी। जहां पे भी आत्मा होगी उसने शांति का अनुभव किया होगा कि आज जिस तरह उसने देश के लिए बलिदान दिया था, उसका आज बलिदान व्यर्थ नहीं गया है।
क्या कहना चाहेंगे सेना के लिए और सरकार से?
सेना के लिए तो मैं बारंबार सेना को मैं सलाम करता हूं, मैं धन्यवाद देता हूं हमारे देश के तीनों सशक्त सेनाओं के वीर जवानों को, जिन्होंने देश की रक्षा के लिए, देश की अस्मिता के लिए अपने धर्म का पालन करते हुए पाकिस्तान में बैठे हुए आतंकवादियों के आकाओं को विध्वंस करके विनाश कर दिया है उन राक्षसों का। मैं सेना को बारंबार सलाम करता हूं और मुझे उम्मीद है कि आने वाले समय में भी अगर किसी तरह की गलत हरकत पाकिस्तान ने करने की कोशिश की तो विध्वंस कर देंगे, विनाश कर देंगे उस आतंकवाद के आका को।
जो फौजी लोगों ने एक्शन लिया है वो अच्छा किया है और वो सिंधु नाम देके भी औरतों को सम्मान दिया है, वैसा है। याद करते वो भूल भी नहीं सकते वो दिन। हम अभी तक वही लेके मैं रोज रोते बैठती हूँ, डर लगा रहता है अभी।
कधी भारत सरकार या हल्ल्यावरती आणि कधी या शहीदांसाठी काही करेल आणि ते भारत सरकारने केले आणि त्यांना एवढीच इच्छा है कि आता जे काही।
मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा है पाकिस्तान के ऊपर जो हल्ला करने का मोदी ने सोच लिया है। वो तो हम देख रहे थे कि कब मोदी ये करता है, क्या करता है, युद्ध करता है उसकी। अभी अच्छा हुआ है मोदी ने जो किया है।
सोडले तर हे परत हेच कृत्य करतील आणि असंच आपल्या सगळ्यांना त्रास होईल। त्यामुळे जेवढे काही उरलेले दहशतवादी त्यांना पूर्ण संपवणं हे मोदी को बता दो। मोदी जी ने आपको लगता है कि मोदी जी तक ये बात पहुंच गई है और मोदी जी ने अच्छा जवाब दे दिया है, उनको मुंह तोड़ जवाब दे दिया है। एकदम योग्य उत्तर दिलंय। मला नाही वाटत की मोदींना तर या पलीकडे काही सांगण्याची गरज है।
आतंकवादियों को तो उनको तो खत्म ही कर देना चाहिए। फिर उन्होंने आंख उठा के भी अपनी तरफ नहीं देखना रखना चाहिए बस।
हमें ऑपरेशन सिंदूर के बारे में न्यूज़ चैनल से मतलब हमारे परिवार वालों के कॉल आए हमें और तब पता चला कि भारत ने जो पहलगाम में हमला हुआ था उसके ऊपर आज उन्होंने रिएक्शन मतलब उनको उत्तर दिया है इसके बदले में एयर स्ट्राइक करके। पहले तो मिशन का नाम सुन के हम लोगों को बहुत मतलब मैं तो बहुत रो रही थी सुन के, क्योंकि मुझे याद है जिस दिन अमित शाह जी आए थे श्रीनगर, जो लोग वीर मरण जिनको प्राप्त हुआ उनको श्रद्धांजलि देने के लिए, उस दिन सब बहनें उनको बोल रही थी कि हम भारत की बहनें हैं, हम आपकी बहनें, और हम लोगों से हमारे पतियों को छीन लिया है। तो मुझे लगता है शायद उसी वजह से ये ऑपरेशन का नाम सिंदूर रखा गया होगा कि जो हमारी सरकार है जो हर स्त्री को बहन बोलता है तो उनके पतियों को छीना गया था, तो उनका सिंदूर छीना गया था, शायद इसी की वजह से उन्होंने वो नाम रखा होगा। ये नाम पढ़ के तो हम बहुत रो रहे थे सुबह, और मुझे लगता है कि जो हमारे मेरे पिताजी का या फिर जितने भी उधर बच्चे थे उन सबके पिताजी और जितनी भी औरतें थे उनके पतियों का जो मतलब जान ली गई, तो उनका ये मरण जो था वो वेस्ट नहीं हुआ, और मुझे लगता है ये उनके लिए आज सच में दी गई एक श्रद्धांजलि है जो भारत ने एयर स्ट्राइक करके की है। मोदी जी को मैं बस तहे दिल से थैंक यू बोलना चाहती हूँ कि 15 दिनों के अंदर अंदर उन्होंने हमारे लोगों को, जो हमारे लोग मरे थे उनको आज न्याय दिलाया है।
Those were the family members of the victims of the 22nd of April terror attack in Pahalgaon who feel that Operation Sindoor has somehow avenged their loved ones. With me today, Express viewers, is the diplomatic editor of the Indian Express, Shubhajit Roy. Shubhajit, welcome, and what a morning it has been since 5 minutes past 1 o'clock for 25 minutes, Operation Sindoor. It's been almost 15 hours now. And what do you think? What is happening so far?
Yeah, I mean, this was expected, but we didn't know when and how. I think that was the surprise element. But the fact that India was going to take a kinetic option, a military strike will conduct in some manner, that was quite known. But I think what differentiates this particular strike, Operation Sindoor, as it is called now, is the scope of and scale of this attack. So it is fundamentally different from Balakot aerial strike, where there was just one target. Here there were 9 targets that were attacked, and not just in Pakistan occupied Kashmir, but also in Pakistan. So it gives you a sense of the kind of planning and the capability that the Indian armed forces have shown, and the Indian government, Indian armed forces have said that they targeted terrorist infrastructure, terror camps, and not military targets, not economic targets or civilian population. So keeping all that in mind, I think the state of play is that we have to see how things unfold from here.
Absolutely. Now there have been reactions cutting across party lines, and world leaders have also reacted. Donald Trump, the US President, reacted. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has been in conversation with India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. All eyes are currently now on India and Pakistan. Well, they have been so in the last 15 days since the last time we spoke. How do you see the world powers reacting? How do you see the chessboard of geopolitics shifting now?
So I think India, just after the attacks, India reached out to some of the key partner countries, and US, UK, Russia, UAE and Saudi Arabia being some of them. And National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, he spoke to US NSA as well as Secretary of State Marco Rubio. And I think that's how, and now we know that India is also trying to brief other foreign ambassadors who are based in Delhi, and so we have seen expressions of concern, naturally, because of escalation can go either ways. So that's why I think the world has generally expressed concern at the escalation, and everyone wants that de-escalation should happen. Now, again, as I said earlier, it will depend on how Pakistan responds to the Indian strike, and that will, I think, sort of give us a sense of where things go from here.
Absolutely. How prepared do you think India is in case there is an escalation? Now, obviously, everyone will try to push for no escalation. Everyone wants peace, but you never know what happens tomorrow. So how prepared do you think India is, or how are we gearing in case there is retaliation from the other side?
I think the government has put in place its sort of playbook, which is usually used in such situations.
Correct.
Where the military is on high alert, Air Force is sort of in a very defensive posture, the naval assets are in a defensive posture to kind of prevent any sort of attack or retaliation which comes in Indian territory. In India's case, when it struck, the Pakistani military said very clearly that Indian planes did not cross over to the Pakistani territory, so Pakistani airspace. So that means sort of some kind of missiles or long distance range precision guided missiles were used in this particular in these strikes. Now, when Pakistan sort of responds in that, to keep that in mind, India has also unleashed these set of measures that we have seen in civil defense, volunteers, and mock drills that have happened. So I think from the Indian government's perspective, it is doing all it can to sort of portray the fact that it is very, very well prepared, and it is also preparing the population for the day two of the day after of the strike.
Of course, and that's why that's a reason for the extensive mock drills that have been scheduled across the country, and a few of them are currently undergoing as we speak. Shubhajit, this armed conflict or this military covert op, this did not happen overnight. This was not a turnaround time of 24 hours on the 23rd of April. This came 15 days later. A lot of calibrated measures have been taken so far. The suspension of the Indus Waters Treaty, the shutdown of the airspace, the cancellation of the visas, and on both sides of the border, they cut down the staff and those working at the embassies and the high commissions. How do you think this entire thing was calibrated and planned as a precursory to this military operation?
I think the Indian government tried to work on different tracks almost simultaneously and sequentially.
Yeah.
So the first set of measures that you outlined were typically they were announced and sort of were implemented in the first phase after 22nd of April. On 23rd April, the Foreign Secretary, he announced a series of measures. After that, a second wave of measures were announced over the last 1 week. And then, as part of that diplomatic toolkit, after those options were sort of unleashed, then came the military strike. And that these 2 weeks that the armed forces got, while Pakistan was sort of dealing with the diplomatic aftermath or the repercussions of the diplomatic steps, that time was very well used by the Indian military, Indian armed forces to prepare for these strikes that we saw. And we saw for the first time we saw footage, videos, and of the strikes being carried out almost like, on a real time basis as it used to happen in the West. So that is, I think, tells you the level of planning, sophistication in technology that and the capacity that the Indian armed forces have, which we saw in this particular series of 9 sites that India attacked.
Absolutely. Shubhajit, I also want to talk to you about the UN Security Council closed door session on the India-Pakistan tensions. What happened there? And currently, given Operation Sindoor, how does it change India's narrative at the UN eventually?
I think one of the things that the UN Security Council did was that it brought the conversation in New York, and it was done at Pakistan's behest, because Pakistan is a member of the a non-permanent member of this UN Security Council for a term of 2 years. So they have the advantage. So they pushed that particular kind of discussion at the Security Council, and the other members, because India was not part of the discussions, but other members, friendly countries who were there, they raised some certain tough questions to the Pakistani representative there at the UNSC, and that's where it sort of ended without any formal resolution or a statement from the Security Council. So in a sense, the talking points were contained in that meeting itself. And India also had reached out already to all the non-permanent members as well as the permanent members, except for Pakistan and China. So remaining 13 members of the 15-member UN Security Council, India had sort of reached out, and that helped in making the other members aware and understand that how was India feeling, and what would be India's impulses to act next.
Absolutely. Shubhajit, if you remember, then right after the Pahalgaon attacks, the MEA top officials met with around 30 ambassadors and representatives of different countries here in New Delhi. And since then, Prime Minister Modi has spoken to Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, as well. And they sort of, gave evidence as to how Pakistan was linked to these terror camps, or, sort of sponsored and funded, reportedly, these militants. Do you think this was a precursory to this operation, saying that, see, this is where we have the proof, and tomorrow if there is an offensive from our end, a sort of a befitting reply, then, we are not to be held accountable or liable, because we have the proof and we can go ahead with it?
I think, proof is, useful for making a political point towards in front of the world, in front of the international community. But nations don't base their actions necessarily always on proof, on the basis of proof. Nations act on the basis of their self-interest.
Correct.
And in this situation, I think the government of the day, they took action on the basis of their national interest. And to be fair to the government, it is not out of place to link Pakistan to this particular Pahalgaon terror attack, because of the series of inputs that Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri he cited today from the sort of electronic evidence or electronic information that they have, to the intelligence inputs they gathered, or the eyewitness accounts they gathered. So they had a fair idea of where these terrorists came from. So I think overall, on that basis, India took this call and was able to build the cross-border linkages to Pakistan. And based on that, I think India has now taken the step of briefing all the countries that Pakistan is indeed involved, and that's the reason India was compelled to take these actions to prevent further attacks and re-establish deterrence, which it had established after the 2019 Balakot aerial strike. And there was a thinking within the Indian government that possibly that deterrence had worn off after 2019, after 6 years. So it was time to re-establish it. So this series of strikes on 9 points that we saw are an effort, are an aimed to re-establish that deterrence against Pakistan.
Absolutely. Finally, Shubhajit, before I let you go, what is India's clear message to Pakistan and to the world as a whole in terms of Operation Sindoor, and what happens next?
I think the clear message is change your behavior. So I think if that is the shortest sort of brief that I think message that India is trying to give out through these strikes. Whether that will change the behavior of Pakistan, we don't know, because that has been the debate of the last several decades. But I think that is the message right now given by the government, that they should sort of not support cross-border terrorism against India. And for the immediate aftermath, I think the message also was, which the Foreign Secretary also spelled it out in presence of the Army and Air Force officers, that any misadventure would be dealt with adequately and sort of proportionately. So that, I think, that is the short-term, immediate military to military sort of messaging that has gone out with these strikes.
Absolutely. Express viewers, that was Shubhajit Roy, the diplomatic editor of the Indian Express, with his overview on Operation Sindoor, how India is poised on the chessboard of geopolitics. And next up, on the other side, we'll be joined by senior journalist of Indian Express, Deeptiman Tiwari, on what has happened so far from 1947 till Operation Sindoor in terms of armed conflict between India and Pakistan. But before that, let's take a look at how the world has reacted to Operation Sindoor.
India today hit 9 sites in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir targeting terrorist infrastructure. The strike came 2 weeks after the Pahalgaon terror attack, in which 26 people were killed. The Defence Ministry in a statement said a little while ago the Indian Armed Forces launched Operation Sindoor, hitting terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, from where terrorist attacks against India have been planned and directed. Reactions from across the world started pouring in after India's attack against terror camps in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir prompted shelling from the neighbouring country, with cross-border tensions running high. China called for restraint from both India and Pakistan, expressing concern over the escalating tensions following Indian forces' Operation Sindoor against terror camps across the border on early Wednesday morning. In a statement issued by its Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Beijing said, and I quote, "China expresses regret over India's military actions this morning and is concerned about the current developments. China opposes all forms of terrorism. We call on both India and Pakistan to prioritize peace and stability, remain calm and restrained, and avoid taking actions that further complicate the situation." After the launch, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio spoke to NSA Ajit Doval and security advisors in Pakistan as well. He tweeted, "I am monitoring the situation between India and Pakistan closely. I echo POTUS's comments earlier today that this hopefully ends quickly and will continue to engage both India and Pakistan leadership towards a peaceful resolution." United Nations Secretary General is very concerned about the Indian strikes in Pakistan against terror camps and called for maximum military restraint from both nuclear-armed Asian neighbours, his spokesperson said. Foreign Minister and Deputy Prime Minister of United Arab Emirates Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan urged both India and Pakistan to exercise restraint, de-escalate tensions and avoid further escalations, the government said in a statement. Meanwhile, Israel's ambassador to India said in a statement that Israel supports India's right to self-defense. Posting on X, Azhar said, and I quote, "Israel supports India's right for self-defense. Terrorists should know there is no place to hide from their heinous crimes against the innocent. Hashtag Operation Sindoor." This is a developing story, so stay tuned with the Indian Express.
So that was USA reacting to India's Operation Sindoor, the covert military op against Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir terror camps. With me in the studio is a senior journalist of the Indian Express, Deeptiman Tiwari. Deeptiman, why Operation Sindoor?
Well, as far as the nomenclature is concerned, I think it sends a great message to and is a sort of a tribute to the victims of the Pahalgam terror attacks. We all know that Operation Sindoor has been carried out in retaliation of the attacks that took place at the Basaran Meadow on April 22, where 25 tourists along with a local person were killed by terrorists. So, the terrorists specifically chose men and killed them. So, and these are families who had gone there on vacation and were enjoying with kids in tow. And the terrorists wanted to send a message and told the victims that you go and tell your government that this is our message. And so, the Basaran Meadow saw so many women being widowed. And this is naming this operation, in which we have targeted 9 terror hideouts in Pakistan as Operation Sindoor, is a way of paying tribute to these widows.
Absolutely. Now the timing of the attack, 15 days later, the turnaround time, a lot happened water diplomacy-wise, between India and Pakistan, airspace-wise. But at the same time, the timing of this attack on a day when the entire country was, riddled with what will happen with the mock deals. This comes between 1:05 a.m. to 1:30 a.m. The timing of this attack, how pertinent and how significant is it?
Look, such strikes have to have an element of surprise. Only then they are successful, and that is why that time must have been chosen. Generally, airstrikes are made during night if you look at war history. That it happened in the night is not a surprise. And it took maybe 15 days because any strike that India plans against Pakistan or for that matter any other hostile country has to be meticulously planned. You cannot just, India is a responsible country, we cannot just enter and bomb targets, killing say civilians or innocent people. We are not Pakistan.
Right.
We don't kill innocent people. So any operation that India plans has to be planned very, very meticulously so that we only hit the targets that we want to, that we hit the targets who are inimical to India's national interest, to India's national security. And that must have been the point. Pinpoint intelligence must have been worked out, locations must have been mapped out, and then precision strikes must have been planned to the last detail and carried out. That is why it must have taken a lot of time. The other thing that you don't want is that the enemy not having an element of surprise. because Pahalgam terror attacks was a deliberate provocation, given that we had an Uri attack in 2016, following which we carried out surgical strikes. Then we had the Pulwama attack, following which we carried out the Balakot strikes. And the Pahalgam terror attack was a deliberate provocation where the enemy was sitting and waiting that India will strike immediately.
Correct.
So we had to have some sort of an element of surprise in all of this. So you had this, diplomatic pressure, you had this Indus Water Treaty and everything, which made it appear that India was probably inching towards, creating more sort of international pressure. And there were statements from the US and everywhere that we hope that this does not escalate further. And but Indian government, to its credit, had steadfastly maintained that the Prime Minister and the Home Minister had said that revenge for this attack will be taken, and the perpetrators of this attack and their conspirators will be brought to justice, come what may. And the government followed on its words.
Absolutely. But at the same time, how set do you think that the narrative is right now, or is it still volatile?
See, the situation right now, we don't yet know exactly how Pakistan is going to react to this, and one hopes that this the main objective of an attack like this is essentially deterrence, that you deter the enemy from acting or from changing, you deter the enemy from taking such actions in future. You ensure that it understands that any such action will have a reaction and will be a costly affair, and so that acts as a deterrence. You try to change the behavior of the enemy through such actions. But as Shubhajit was saying earlier, Pakistan is a very unpredictable country. It does not, its behavior to a particular action and expectation of changing behavior has always been a debatable topic in geopolitics.
Right.
So the situation continues to obviously remain volatile, both on the Indo-Pakistan border at the moment. In Kashmir, there is shelling and artillery firing that is happening, and some small arms fire was already happening earlier. And one would expect that Pakistan would not flinch from taking some drastic steps, because geostrategically it has always been argued that the Pakistan military, which essentially owns the country,
Correct.
Is never actually looking at equality with India, is never looking at Pakistan becoming an equal to India. It is merely looking at a parity of response in terms of military action. So if India takes any action, Pakistan military will try to show that we are good enough, we are equally forceful, we are equally powerful, and will take a similar action. So in many ways, if we look at the Balakot strike, where we went inside Pakistan territory and we bombed targets, the Pakistan military came out with a propaganda that no targets were hit and nobody was killed, and it said that it had shot down one Indian aircraft, and we all know Abhinandan Vartaman episode, who was detained there and then brought back to India. So Pakistan, in the eyes of its own people, scored a victory there, that we shot down an Indian aircraft, an Indian pilot was in our detention, so we are the victorious. That is all Pakistan wants.
They made an entire show. Right?
That is all that Pakistan military wants. It wants a parity of response.
Correct. Deeptiman, from 1947 till 2025, there have been at least 10 face-offs between India and Pakistan, from Operation Riddle to Operation Ablaze and now to Operation Sindoor. If you had to give a throwback to the entire timeline.
So, yes, there have been many Indo-Pak skirmishes, wars, battles, beginning from 1947 when tribal raiders started raiding into Kashmir, and then till the latest one, Operation Sindoor. The first big war that India had with Pakistan was in 1965 when Pakistan Army and Air Force tried to forcibly take over Kashmir and entered Jammu and Kashmir. And in response to that, I think that operation by Pakistan was called Operation Gibraltar.
Yes.
And in response to that, India launched Operation Riddle, in which Indian armed forces actually walked into Lahore and Kasur.
Yes.
And that operation, and there was another operation along with that, and those two operations actually forced Pakistan on its knees, and then the Tashkent Agreement was signed, and those hostilities were halted at that moment. Then the next was the 1971 war, another big war, which was which is also called the Bangladesh Liberation War. This was fought both on the eastern border and the western border, and in that also Indian military launched an operation where we took over a very crucial bridge, Meghna Heli Bridge, and which was very crucial for Indian forces' march towards Dhaka.
Right.
And along with that, there was Operation Safed Sagar, where the Indian Navy bombed, Pakistan Navy installations in near Karachi. And all of that, again brought Pakistan to its knees, and Pakistan military had to face a humiliating defeat in that war, and a new nation called Bangladesh was created.
Right.
Then, another major operation was Operation Meghdut in 1984, when India saw that Pakistan was inching towards the Siachen glaciers. Indian Air Force sort of carried this heavy tools, machinery, to ration, to equipment, to men, to these huge heights. Those are not heights which are easily operable for helis.
Absolutely.
And yet the Indian Air Force did it, and because of that, before Pakistan could take any action, we were able to take over Siachen Glacier, and we've been there since then. And we all know it's a very, very strategic position that we have taken at the line of control there, which has put us on advantage vis-a-vis Pakistan tactically. And then we all know the Kargil conflict of 1999. That operation was called Operation Vijay. It was a very, very difficult operation because Indian forces had to march from below, and Pakistan military and some elements of Mujahideen who had been with them were at a very advantageous position up the hill. Yet the Indian military, through Operation Vijay, which was also supported by Indian Air Force, took over all the heights in that conflict. Then came the 2016 surgical strikes following the Uri attacks.
It was not codenamed though.
Yes, there was no name given to those strikes. So in that sense, yes, it was. In fact, there was no code given to even the 1947 army operation. So happens sometimes, or maybe we don't know because it was never made public.
Yeah.
So
covert ops.
Maybe covert ops. So the surgical strikes were hardly covert because the government did a press conference on it.
Yeah.
So yes, surgical strikes were again the first step by the Narendra Modi government to sort of increase the threshold of conflict between India and Pakistan over acts of terrorism.
Correct.
Earlier, all the conflicts had happened over, clear acts of war.
Right.
So threshold of conflict was raised by India through surgical strikes. where Indian troops entered deep into Pakistan occupied Kashmir and targeted terror hideouts and killed suspected terrorists. Then, of course, came the February 2019 Pulwama attacks, where 40 CRPF soldiers in a convoy were killed in a suicide bombing by Jaish-e-Mohammed. In response to that, India carried out the Balakot strikes. This strike was called Operation Bandar.
Correct.
And there we all know what happened in the Balakot strike. We entered Pakistan territory and targeted some of the terror hideouts that we knew were harboring terrorists. And all that, Abhinandan Vartaman and all that episode that happened after that. Since then, there has been a period of 6 years when such skirmishes have not happened. In between, we have also achieved sort of a ceasefire on the border. But following the Pahalgam terror attacks, we all know that small arms fire started on the line of control. There was a great provocation from Pakistan. And now, since the strikes that happened last night, Pakistan has been heavily shelling the LOC and the international border in Jammu. We know that at least 10 people are reported to have been killed in these shellings, all civilians, and more than 30 people are injured.
Absolutely. Deeptiman, what happens to the Kashmir chapter now? Because, this morning Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah said that, it was sort of all peaceful. And right after the attacks, he said that he doesn't have the face to ask Center for Statehood anymore. So, in terms of all the back and forth, all the attacks and all the revenge and all the operations, firing, all of that, what happens to Kashmir? What happens to the valley? What happens to peace there? What happens to militancy there? Overall, what's the Kashmir story now?
Well, Kashmir must be feeling like the filling in a sandwich, because on one side is India, on the other side is Pakistan, and both are, because fighting, both are fighting with each other, and in between Kashmir is caught.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate, because in the past 5 years, 6 years, there has been tremendous progress in Kashmir, tremendous economic progress in Kashmir. Tourism was booming. Although tourism accounts for only about 7-8% of the state's GDP, but it employs a huge number of people, and also people from all sections of the society in Kashmir. So this is a huge employment generator. And so, more than anything else, this had generated a sense of calm, a sense of peace, a sense of normalcy in the Kashmir Valley. And Kashmir was looking at sort of, gradually making this the new normal, where, schools would remain open throughout the year, businesses would run throughout the year, there would be no stone pelting, there would be no strikes, and people were making money, people were prospering. So when prosperity happens, prosperity has a way of ensuring peace. And peace has a way of, so both complement each other. When there is peace, prosperity happens. If there is prosperity, then interests get aligned around peace. As long as there is peace, there will be prosperity. So it appeared that, this thing was moving in a positive direction. But following the Pahalgam attacks, we all know that the tourism industry has crashed. At least for the next 5 years, tourists will have very little interest in going to Kashmir, because obviously people will be scared. Rarely have tourists been targeted in Kashmir in the past 3 decades of insurgency there. So one that has crashed, then one doesn't know how long this India-Pakistan battle will go. Kashmir will definitely get caught in between. Already it is suffering most of the shelling right now, and people in Jammu and Kashmir are suffering it.
Absolutely.
People living on the borders are dying in it. So obviously all of this is going to impact Jammu and Kashmir in a major way. Any battle between India and Pakistan affects Kashmir. We all know that. Then again, a lot of investments had started flowing into Kashmir over the past 4 or 5 years. More than 1.25 lakh crore of worth of investments. If these kind of battles, skirmishes, or these kind of disturbances continue, investor sentiments may begin to get affected. Because any investor, anyone running a business would want, some sort of predictability of environment for the business to continue. So all of that, yes, it is very unfortunate for Jammu and Kashmir. And on top of that, as you said, that their big political question of getting statehood. Given the security situation, one can only guess that this is a can which gets kicked further away.
This is a can that gets kicked further away for the Kashmir story right now. And of course, the situation remains volatile. Much remains to be seen if there will be any escalation from beyond the LOC or what happens next. We could be in a state of limbo if nothing happens. That was Deeptiman Tiwari, senior journalist of the Indian Express. And next up is the country has been looking forward, not exactly looking forward, but was, sort of riddled with the so-called mock drills that have been announced since the last couple of days in various locations across the country. But let's take a look at what's happening in those mock drills. We have visuals live from Kolkata, from Delhi, across that how mock drills are being carried out across the country.
I'm here at the Lamatania School for Boys with 3 class 12 students who participated in the mock drill that is happening across the country as we speak. I have with me Abneesh, Abhinav and Sajjudho. Is this the first? This must be the first time you're participating in that drill.
Actually, our school has been holding drills in the past as well. Even when we were in junior school, we had such mock drills just to keep the students more prepared for what might happen in the future.
But this one comes with a sense of,
yes, the connotation that
we have never experienced such a situation before, so it's a bit different, but it's nothing we are unprepared for.
So you're prepared for a situation like this, of a situation of duress, when there is probably possibility of bombing and so are you mentally prepared?
Mentally prepared we weren't, but after today we are getting the hang of it. I feel all the students of course will be a lot of panic, but after today I think we have got a lot of things under control.
And what are the things that you guys think are absolutely necessary when it comes to a mock drill like this, or when it comes to a real life situation?
Presence of mind is actually a lot is the most.
And I think these drills prepare our students to think more calmly and plan it in a more organized manner, like going out and cleaning files into the field and lining up in files. That has prepared them and made them understand the situation better.
Actually, a presence of mind. If you don't have presence of mind in such situations, you won't be able to handle it.
Absolutely. And God forbid a situation like this happens. You guys feel that you're prepared for it?
Yeah. We think we'll handle it better than most.
And I'm sure that nothing like this will happen, and we hope that nothing like this can happen. But thank you so much. Thank you.
That was Premankur Biswas from Kolkata at a mock drill site, giving us updates on what exactly is happening in these mock drills as India gears up for what happens next post Operation Sindoor. Express viewers, Operation Sindoor this morning early on Wednesday. It's been almost 15 hours to the military covert op. 9 civilians meanwhile have been dead and 38 others injured along the artillery shelling along the line of control in Jammu and Kashmir. As India awaits what happens next, let's take a look at the last 10 face-offs between India and Pakistan since the creation of the two countries in 1947 till 2025. In a notable departure from traditional military nomenclature, India has named its latest counter-terror operation, Operation Sindoor, a choice that carries emotional and symbolic significance. The name, reportedly chosen by Prime Minister Narendra Modi himself, honors the women who lost their husbands in the Pahalgam terror attack on the 22nd of April, where 26 tourists were killed in Jammu and Kashmir's Baisaran meadow. This change marks a deliberate shift from India's usual military strategy of projecting hard power through bold operation names to a more empathetic message, one of justice and remembrance. On Wednesday, the Indian government revealed that 9 terrorist camps in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir were targeted in precision strikes as part of Operation Sindoor. But the message extended beyond military efficiency, with the operation's name referencing the symbolic red powder worn by married women in India. It was a homage to the lives shattered in the Pahalgam attack, especially the widows left behind. According to government sources, the operation was not only about retribution, but also about honoring civilian grief and demonstrating India's moral clarity in its fight against terrorism. India's previous operations have largely followed the playbook of strong, often mythologically inspired names meant to send a clear and strategic signal. Let's take a look at 10 key military armed ops of India. In 1965, it was Operation Riddle, launched in response to Pakistan's Operation Gibraltar. This saw India attacking Lahore and Kasur, crippling Pakistani advances. Then came Operation Ablaze, a defensive mobilization that preceded the 1965 war, showcasing India's readiness. Moving on to 1971, it was Operation Cactus Lily, an assault during the Bangladesh Liberation War to bypass key Pakistani positions. Similarly, 1971, it was Operation Trident and Python, naval operations, this time targeting Karachi, causing significant Pakistani naval losses. 13 years later, in 1984, it was Operation Meghdoot, a preemptive mission to occupy strategic heights on the Siachen Glacier. And of course, in 1999, Operation Vijay and Operation Safed Sagar joined Indian Army and Indian Air Force efforts to reclaim positions in the Kargil conflict. In 2016, there were these surgical strikes, cross-line of control raids in retaliation for the Uri attack through unnamed officially. In 2019 came Operation Bandar, the Balakot airstrikes after the Pulwama bombing. Each of these names reflected either military dominance or strategic intent, often steeped in mythology or coded terminology to preserve secrecy. By naming this retaliatory action Sindoor, the government has departed from that tradition to underscore compassion, civilian impact, and emotional resonance. It reflects a growing trend in India's defense narrative, where strategic decisions are now being paired with public sentiment and symbolism, and not just tactical clarity. The strike in Operation Sindoor itself targeted terror launchpads and infrastructure, but the name of the operation is meant to show that India's response is about justice and not just retaliation. It sends a dual message: firmness against terrorism, but also solidarity with the victims. In a way, Operation Sindoor doesn't just strike across the border, it strikes a chord closer to home.